What's up, everybody? What up, bros? Welcome to
What's up,
Brograph
bros?
Live. I'm Dave.
Woo. I'm Matt.
And what are we doing for our first live event?
Well, we're going to be answering questions, hopefully. And hopefully we have the right answers.
And hopefully there's some
If
people to ask questions. We'll see.
we got four people watching right now, but I know two of them's you and me. And we got Penguin Cave 360. Penguin
Nice.
Cave 360. We are
Cool.
we're ready to take some questions.
And there are different ways you can do it. You can write it on the YouTube comment section. You can write it on the Reddit thread from earlier today. And you can also go to our website, brograph.com/live. There's an IRC chat in there. We'll be watching that. I see there's somebody in there now.
I
Somebody
see it
just logged
too.
in. So we'll keep an eye on
Mib82.
that. We did have an initial question from earlier from somebody on Reddit. Do you want to address that one first?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, let's see the question from Reddit. Do you have the Reddit stream up? 'Cause
I've got
I
the
don't.
question right here if you want me to read it.
Yeah, the question involved using GI. Is that correct? During animation.
Yeah, it says, so I render my GI pass as camera animation IR plus QMC. It takes a bit longer, but it keeps the flickering from happening on footage. I've read somewhere that you can run the GI pass at 720p and then render footage at 1080p from the 720 pass. Have you guys tried this
I'm
before?
assuming that he's using R14. Is that correct, Dave?
Well, I'm guessing that's what it is, because that has changed, and I wanted to address that, because it's kind of a thing of the past, fortunately, now. I mean, I think you can go back and do it the old way, but as far as the old version, yes, I have heard of that before, and I have messed with it a little bit, and it works. And other people I've heard have tried it, and it works. It might not be perfect.
How much time do you think that would save you? Like if you had to guess.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's possible. It could save you quite a bit of time. I mean, I know that when you're doing heavy GI, especially camera animation, it can be incredibly taxing if you don't have a network render. But
Yes.
if it works, I'd say more power to you. You know, I mean, try it out. Maybe run a couple quick experiments and see. But the good thing is that if you have R15, that whole camera animation, still animation, animation with still camera, all that stuff has kind of gone away, and it's much more streamlined now. It's great to not have to worry about that GI stuff as much anymore.
It's quicker too. I've noticed that the
3ds Max, and so my teacher was like, well, you already know how to use this, so just go home and make something with a project, and then in 6 weeks come in and turn it in, and you'll pass the class. And so that was the extent of my 3D, and I went away from it for a while. I was doing live graphics on the road, but I was doing 2D graphics. I did some directing. I directed the George Strait tour for a couple years.
oh yeah.
A lot of live graphic stuff, and then my daughter was being born, and it was like, oh, I don't really want to be on the road anymore, and I started learning Cinema 4D, and I started, you know.
Now, what got you started working in cinema? Like, where were your resources that you started with?
Well, of course, like everybody else, Grayscale Gorilla. What I really did not know right off the bat is what platform I wanted to use, because I had done 3D Max, and then I became a Mac guy. So there is no 3D Max on Mac, and I dabbled in Maya, and it was kind of complicated. And I went back and forth. I dabbled in Maya, but it just didn't click. You know, it just wasn't there. And the more I got into After Effects, the more I really wanted to do 3D. So
Yeah,
I
one
started
one
doing
thing
some
I will say
tutorials and all that.
with Maya, I took a Maya class as well, and the one thing that I really like about Cinema versus Maya is you've got these layers in Cinema that you set up, and it's really easy to go back to, especially in like similar to After Effects, you know, versus Maya. Maya, I just felt like I was modeling, and I had no real concept of like where everything was and how to get everything and to navigate around to all the individual pieces and stuff. But, you know, that was only one class of Maya. So, anyway, sorry, not to
Oh, no.
derail you.
The thing that I really liked was that when I got into cinema, it just was intuitive. I looked around at what different people were using, and I found a lot of resources. That's kind of the nice thing. There's so many resources online about Cinema 4D as opposed to some of
Hmm.
the other 3D programs, and it just felt right. It just everything was where I thought it should be. Everything just kind of clicked. So it was. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and all my 3D stuff that I had done in the past kind of just came back to me, and it just started working, and it just happened. I don't know, and I wasn't good at it at first. I look back on some of that stuff, and I'm like, oh man, that's terrible, and I still look at some of my stuff and say, oh man, that's terrible, and I think you should. If you don't, then you're not getting better. So
We'll miss you, Penguin Cave 360. Sorry, you gotta go.
oh, all right. So how about you?
Okay, so I went to the Art Institute of Dallas, um, which it's all right. Art Institute of Dallas is pretty good. If you're looking for a place to go hands on and like being able to start working with cameras and working with your different animation and stuff like right away, Art Institute's a pretty good place to go. Other than that, it's harder to get a job going there, which I've experienced. I started doing video, just editing stuff, editing on Avid in high school. Went to the Art Institute, graduated, one of the top in my class as far as portfolio, and I was really lucky because I got hired on right as I was starting school with a small little like it was a post house in Dallas, but it was like a consumer based one. So it's kind of like a Kinko's of video. So I did that for probably like 9 years. Worked my way through school. Worked my way all the way from just doing VHS dubs all the way to being their, head graphics and head editor, doing After Effects. Well, I moved over to a different company almost exactly a year ago, a little over a year ago, and then I was wanting to learn some 3D, and so of course you go to Grayscale Gorilla, and
Yep.
you start to learn that. But it wasn't until you have to do it all the time, and you're forced to do it all the time, that you start to really learn. And I was really lucky because Dave actually stepped in and took an entire day out of his schedule to teach me how to create nice logos and to make them pretty. And from that point on, like my boss, our boss was able to see that I could do this stuff, and he's just like, all right, and he'd throw more and more at me, and I'd just have to figure it out. So I was lucky because I had all the resources around me and stuff to kind of teach me. So
Yeah, but you know what? You did have that essential understanding. There are some people that get it, and there are some people that just don't get it, unfortunately.
yeah,
And
there's a lot of just button pushers who know
yeah,
how to press the buttons. I will say, if you're wanting to get into, if you're a young kid, I know you can't stick around Penguin Cave 360, but I mean, 16, now's the time to learn. And
oh
if you're
yeah,
going to do it, really get a good understanding of like graphic design. A good design background is really going to help you in, motion graphics completely.
I'm a very technical person, and so it,
Still create a really pretty picture and pretty cool stuff with plugins, but it's almost like if you know the basics and know what you're doing, most of the time you don't need them. Plugins save you steps, of course. I'm not one to talk. You guys have seen some of my tutorials. I use some stages right off the bat.
yeah,
We got another
but
question.
there's something about knowing what you're. If you have a plugin and you know that you know how to do it without that plugin, there's something good about just knowing that you have that knowledge. You could do it if you didn't have the plugin.
Yeah, totally. We got another question on the live. It said, "Who and what are some of your inspirations?"
You want to tackle that first?
Sure, I will. Actually, right now, like I really loved cartoons. All growing up, and I had written a couple cartoons and started working on one, and it just kind of fell through. Well, once I really cartoons are a big inspiration. And as far as like animation and stuff like that, all the Disney and Pixar, I totally love. Specifically because I feel like, for the most part, Disney and Pixar create wonderful stories, and their stuff is just beautiful. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the new Mickey Mouse cartoons. I follow this blog. It's cartoonbrew.com, where it shows some of the new cartoons and stuff like that, and they featured the new Mickey Mouse cartoons, and they're animated in the old 50s style, and they just look gorgeous, and stuff like that really inspires me in order to, do something nice. Or I'll follow the you guys on Reddit, and I'll watch some of yours, and I'll get really, really sad because you guys are so much better than me. There was one guy today who had tons of bumpers that he had done for MTV, and it was just like, oh man, those look so good.
Yeah.
So, but I'll troll Vimeo for a while, just like trying to get inspiration and stuff like that. So really, it's just every person out there who is creating content, and I'm trying to take in as much as possible. Also, Behance is a great place to go. Dave introduced me to Behance, and so go there and get inspiration. It's actually the Cola rendering one. I was almost a complete ripoff of a guy's step-by-step of what he did on Behance. And so I was able to do it and figure it out myself, and then I wanted to teach you guys that. So
It wasn't really a rip-off. It's just someone had a can. It was a can. It wasn't even a bottle. But I think that there's something to be said about that right there, which is, there is a huge difference between stealing and using something as inspiration. I tend to go to Behance, and you can set up, you can do like your, I forget what you call it, like bookmarks or flagging or tagging or whatever you want to call it. I actually set stuff up in different categories of motion graphics. For example, I do a lot of logos all the time. So I'll set up, something that is called logos. And anytime I see a logo on there that I think is really cool and I'd like to do that someday, or not the exact same thing, but something similar, I'll mark that, and I'll come back, and if I am stuck trying to come up with an idea for something, I'll go back to that and I'll say, here are all the things that I tagged. Is there some sort of technique or idea or something that I could pull from one of these that I would like to try? And it's not just like you're just taking that and doing the exact same thing. It's just kind of a starting point to say, I'm going to take this idea and expand upon it. And that is how every single piece of art is created. It's everything comes from something else, which came from something else, which came from something else, and so on. I mean, nothing is fully original,
Yeah.
And as far as my inspirations, I have inspirations from different places and different people and different categories of what am I trying to say here? In different categories of art and
different styles and genres and
that and there are a lot of there's a lot of inspiration I get technically. One of the things that I like to talk about a lot are the grip tools, because those plugins inspire me to do these crazy technical things. It's not necessarily anything that looks artistically cool, unless you expand upon the technology behind it and do something cool with it. I like to do that techie stuff, or I like to go again like to Behance or Vimeo, and look at that stuff. Of course, Motionographer, I like to look at that, but that stuff is a little too artsy for me sometimes. I don't know. But
yeah, it's cool being able to like Dave showed me some of the grip tool plugins and stuff like that, and it's like we're trying to figure out where we can take this and take it to a new level.
Right.
So we've got new stuff that we want to try, but gotta have the time.
Yeah, we gotta have the time, and that's the thing. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. There's so much we want to do. We have lists of stuff And of course, real quick before we get off the inspiration thing, one of my inspirations is actually Merlin Mann, because not only is he entertaining, but he's very knowledgeable technically, and I'm a big Mac nerd, and I love that. And he says some really truly inspirational things sometimes, especially on Back to Work. I listen to him on Roderick on the Line, which I think you do too.
Yes, it's my favorite podcast besides Urban Coffee.
And which is my other podcast. And I really like what he has to say on Back to Work. There's a lot.
I was able to learn, a little bit of espresso through that, and then I did the piston one, which was based off of the model that I had done. So I don't know.
What else do I have? Well, on the V-Ray kick, on V-Ray, I plan to do like an intro on how to set up a scene. Because the biggest thing when you get V-Ray is like, all right, I have it, now what? And then you just, you do the inevitable hit Command B and go to your render settings and switch it to V-Ray. And then you render something and you're like, well, that didn't look very good.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it because there's a lot you have to do with tags. You have to have all the materials separate for V-Ray. You have to have
the materials in V-Ray you have to use. Do you have to use V-Ray specific materials?
Yes.
You can't just make a regular material. Because I know that's the way it is with Metal Ray and Maya.
And once you learn these third-party renderers, you kind of understand them all. And the thing about V-Ray is even your camera has to have a V-Ray camera tag on it, and it has to be set up. And you have to set the ISO, and you have to set all that. And you kind of need to know a little bit about photography, to get that going. And so there's a lot to know about V-Ray, but there is just a small handful of stuff you have to know to kind of get going. Because once I got over that initial hump of the stuff you have to do right off the bat in a scene, I feel like it kind of cascaded. And Matt, you saw that it was like that dry cleaner thing that I made.
Yeah.
It was all V-Ray, and it turned out great. I was really happy with it.
Yeah, and it's amazing how realistic you can get doing V-Ray. I mean, you can get the cool thing about cinema is you can get realistic looking stuff just straight off the regular renderer. But man, V-Ray, good stuff. I would really like to see some stuff for. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Some Metal Ray stuff rendered out in cinema, like some actual animation and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a very rare plugin for cinema. Really, I don't think that many people are using it.
Let's see.
I got some other things on the coming up tutorials coming up thing. I'll just list them off real quick, just to give you an idea. And I may or may
real
not
quick,
hit
someone said, "Do we take requests for tutorials?" Yes, absolutely, we do.
Definitely.
Yeah, feel free to. Where should they contact us? I mean, probably just in the comments in the YouTube, right? Or if you comment on any one of our videos at Brograph.com, feel free to tell us there.
Yeah, or on Facebook.
We don't have email set up yet.
Or Twitter or
absolutely
any of those places.
Any one of the social networks.
Let's see. Here's what I got going. I got that V-Ray thing. I was thinking about doing, because we're thinking about doing software, possibly plugins or something too. I'd like to do a Lego plugin, maybe something having to do with Minecraft. Matt, I thought a good one for you would show how to recreate the Open to Modern Family.
Yes.
That would be fun. I'd like to talk about depth of field in Cinema 4D a little bit.
Depth of field would be a good one. Because it's amazing how well you can sell something with a little bit of depth of field. And I didn't really know. I really didn't know too much about it until I really started delving deep into it and trying to create some realistic looking scenes.
And vector motion blurs.
Oh man, yeah, he'll push vector motion blurs. I'm kind of a sucker, and I just throw the standard RSMB filter on it, and he hates me for doing it and I know it doesn't look good all the time, but
there's kind of an art to it too, because you can't just take the vector files and just throw them in there and put the plugin in it. There's kind of an art to getting it to work. But if you can get it to work, it looks so much better.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Digital short. We're talking about doing Brograph digital shorts at some point.
Yes, bro shorts.
Bro shorts. I think I'm wearing those right now. Let's see what else. Some of these I may or may not do. I wanted. Have you talked about a stage yet?
No, we had someone comment about a week or two ago about stages and using multiple cameras, doing multiple cameras using a stage. And I thought about doing something like that. We may do that. One on my plate. I really like the new grass renderer in R15, and I wanted to try and do some growing grass. I had just recently did an animation where we needed to grow some grass, and I really liked how easy it was using the new grow grass. So, but I also wanted to do that. I also wanted to do some cascading growing grass, but that involves hair, which, can be a pain.
Yeah. Other stuff here. I've got. I got. Recently, I was building a cart digitally, and I put welds on it. So it just putting those little welds on it made it look so much more realistic, and it was so easy that I thought I'd do a short thing and show how to make welds on the sides of things so they look metal, and they look like they're carts that are put together instead of like perfectly. I mean, no cart or metal structure is mathematically perfect in real life, so why would you do it like that in cinema? If you're trying to make something look realistic, it's about bringing out the imperfections and things in your models.
Correct. Hey, sorry, go ahead.
I'll quickly go through the rest of these instances and XREF objects. I'd like to talk about light gobos. ProVectors I already talked about. I'd like to talk about bringing 3D Max objects into cinema in different ways and which ones are more advantageous between like OBJs and FBX objects. I thought it would be fun to do some breakdowns. Maybe we take a still frame from something like Toy Story and just admire and talk about what they did. I think it falls under the category of fair use. So
one of my favorite things, I read this on I can't remember what magazine it was, but basically the new Monsters University movie that Pixar did, it was the first time ever they were using GI.
Isn't that something?
So that's crazy to me. It's like you weren't using GI this whole time. And have you seen it, Dave?
No, I haven't.
It's you like knowing that, going into it knowing it, you can tell. And it makes it so much more colorful and very pretty, super realistic. Well, as real as monsters go.
So I told Matt at the beginning of what we got.
I had a question. Well, we've got a couple of quick questions which you can probably answer. Let's see. Why'd you start doing tutorials? I started doing. I always wanted to do tutorials from After Effects. It's just really nice to have a partner that I can work with, someone who can help hold me accountable,
Well, we've known each other a little over a year, and I'm pretty sure that the first day we met, we talked about the fact that we had both wanted to do tutorials.
Yeah, that's actually true. It was during my interview. You were sitting in my interview, and everyone left, and you and I were talking about how we wanted to do tutorials.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so I had a buddy who is doing a logo for a short film, and he's trying to make realistic looking guts to spell out the name of the name of the movie. So
that's interesting. Like intestines?
He doesn't. Yeah, intestines.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, the only thing that I can think, he sent me an example of a model on Turbo Squid.
Oh, okay.
Let me see.
You gonna bring that up on your computer?
Well, yeah. Let me see if I can.
Totally show it.
Let me see if I can find out digestive system.
While you're bringing
Give
that
me-
up, just off the top of my head, the first thing that I would think of is, of course, intestines. So I would really start by trying to spell out the name of the movie with a spline, honestly. I can
Yeah, see,
kind of
that's
see it
what I
that
was.
way, and then you do a sweep over it with, with a circle, and then once you kind of get it how you want, you kind of mix that down so it's, editable geometry, and then you kind of deform it a little bit. That's a good start, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you want to switch over to my, I don't know if you've got my thing
Yeah, I
up.
got you
I
up.
can't
I
see.
got you up.
Okay, like you can see, this is the one that he sent me, and it looks like, I mean, you could probably do that using a spline, and then just, what is it, lofting, like a circle around it or something.
Yeah, loft might be better
It's
than
really,
sweep.
or yeah, or am I thinking sweep? No, I'm thinking sweep.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah.
I get the two
there's
confused
different ways to
sometimes.
do it. Yeah. I know that
Yeah,
sometimes you loft instead of sweeping.
I do. Yes, yes, yeah. A sweep, I would think a sweep would probably be pretty good in order to get all these little, all the wrinkles and stuff. I mean, you could create a spline and then sweep that. But what's really gonna sell it is your lighting and your texturing and a really good bump map.
Yeah, and it depends, but you could start out with something smooth. Like you could start out with a smooth sweep, because it's going to look pretty much like a tube when you do that. It's the stuff that you do to it after you mix it down. Like once you kind of secure that and you kind of lock in that geometry. What I like to use a lot is what is it called? The point deal, where you can do like a crumple. Here, I'm gonna bring it up on mine so I can show you. When you're in, let me delete this cube here. When you have an object, and I'm just gonna do a cylinder and pretend this is a piece of an intestine or something. If I create some segments in here, let me turn this on so you can see it. If I create some segments in here and I mix this down so that it's an editable object. See, I've got the points. I like to select them if I'm trying to do. This is kind of what I'm going to do with that tutorial on welding. There is. I always get lost up in here. There's. Where is it? Is it set point value? There's a set point value, and then there's some different options. I like to do. I'll show you, for example, crumple radial, and I can say I want to do a crumple radial maybe 1 centimeter, and that's not enough, so I'm gonna up that. See what that's doing there? That's just doing like a general random offset of all the points in every direction, and see what that's doing there. So already that's like looking like an intestine, and I bet you that if you do a subdivision surface on it, you could smooth it out a little bit and really make it start looking like some bloody guts. Look at that. I really like
can't
using
see
that.
it.
I really like using. You should see it in your Skype. You don't see it?
In my
Thought
Skype?
I thought I was sending it to you. Maybe
No.
I'm not.
No,
Oh, that's my bad. Here,
I'm watching the live thing, so I'm like way behind.
Here, I'm sharing my screen with you. There you go. Except
Oh,
now you're all
yeah, the
paused,
little
so you
crumple?
might have to call me back.
Oh, that's all right. I like the way you crumpled that.
Dang,
That
it
is
screwed
pretty
it all
cool.
up. The editor needs to do with this piece of footage once they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave has a patented move that he likes to do with his graphics, where he will use one of the letters or some sort of element within it to use it as a wipe, into the footage. It's a patent pending.
Yeah.
Okay, here, I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
You would.
Wish you would. Okay, so as you can see here, this is, basically what I was talking about. I just did a freehand really quick.
Hold
Can
on
you
a
see
second.
that?
It's still loading.
Oh, my bad.
I don't know why it's taking so long to load. Usually it doesn't take that long. So explain to us what you're doing while that's going.
Well, what I did was I basically just took the freehand tool and created a just like some intestine, you know, swirly shape, and then just did a quick circle. You created a circle and sweeped it.
You might
So,
have
if you
to. I don't know. I'm not getting you. You might have to turn that off and back on. Did you try turning it off and on again?
stop sharing screen.
Okay, now I see you. Go back to sharing
Okay,
screen.
share
Stupid
screen.
Skype.
That's all right.
Skype is so buggy sometimes.
We haven't had too many problems yet.
Knock on wood.
Switch screen or window. All right, let's see if that works. Can you see Can you see anything?
I still see you.
Well, dang. Switch.
Thing. Where's the thing?
The thing. The thing.
We're big Lemon Grab fans, by the way.
Yes.
Adventure Time. So we're always quoting Lemon Grab.
Why is nothing showing up? All right, let me try hanging up again.
All right. What's cool about this is we can actually still hear and see each other because we're doing like a double video chat just in case. It's called backups.
Yep.
All right, we'll try one more time.
All right.
If not,
Share
we
screen.
can move on to something else.
Cinema 4D. There we go. You got it?
All right, hold on. You're pausing. I'm expecting to see something any moment now. I see an icon of you, and it's loading. Boo earns.
Boo earns. You got nothing?
Nothing. Nothing, dog.
Because dang, that stinks. Because in the corner I can see both me and the little intestine thing.
That's weird.
Well, let's just go ahead and assume that I made a perfect intestine right then.
It's perfect. Look
So,
at that.
It's it's so amazing.
Look at that.
All right, stop screen sharing. Share screen. Cinema 4D. Start. See, I can see it in my two little windows.
Weird.
Oh well. Wasting time.
Oh well, that's okay.
That's
I
all
don't
right.
see you
Yeah.
now, though. Am I supposed to be seeing you?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Stop sharing screen.
Somebody
What
needs to
about
come
now?
up with a better sharing solution. No, you're frozen. Call me back.
Okay.
There we go. All right. There you are. All right. Well, let's move on, shall we?
Well, basically, all I did was create a circle, did a freehand thing, and then, made it look like guts. And then if you use Dave's crinkle idea to kind of, get that texture, you throw some ambient occlusion on it, man, as long as you get the right texture, that you would probably have to create that in either, Photoshop or, I don't know, what would be a good procedural, like noise or something. It's like some white, chunky, gross noise or something.
And there's so many noise options. You could probably find
Yeah.
something procedural. It's always better to try and find something procedural than to have to try and create it yourself and then make it tileable and all that kind of mess. Usually, I like to add bump, and rather than just add noise or something. Actually, I love adding noise no matter what, and adding that into everything else. But I always go to surfaces right off the bat, and I go into surfaces and I start looking through there and I just start trying stuff. I'll
Dave,
just go through the different lists.
Dave, I've noticed, does he'll even sometimes put like a bump map on text to kind of give it like I don't know what it is. It just sells it, makes it look pretty.
Makes it look a little metallic or a little plasticky sometimes, or maybe sometimes a little leathery but shiny. So I've got something that I wanted to bring up here. It's the team render glitch that I had the other day. This is pretty interesting. So I was trying to render something. Let's see if I can find this screenshot here. Go through all my. There's good girl Gina. That's not her. That's not it. It's not a screenshot. I know. Okay, here we go. So I've got these screenshots, and I was. Let me bring it up over here I'll put it over Matt's face. So
Bye.
there's a chair that I was working on, and art director says, "Hey, make the stripes go the other way." So I was like, "All right, well, I'll make the stripes go the other way." So I did that, and there's the stripes going the right way. And then I had to re-render it, and I had this huge farm thing going with Team Render, and some of the frames just didn't render correctly. They rendered the old way. Now, I hadn't reset anything. I hadn't turned off any cinema or anything like that. And I was like, what could be causing this? So in the past, I've maybe once or twice had a couple Team Render glitches, and I reset by turning off, in my Team Render, I turned off all of my Team Render machines, and I rendered one frame with
The Team Renderer.
Yes, definitely.
You know, it's like biting the hand that feeds you.
Yeah.
So,
I got other
What else we
stuff
got?
here on my list. Unless you have something you want to talk about.
nope. I'm just going to follow along with you, buddy.
All right. I wanted to put this tip out here because for the longest time, this is something that was hard for me to find, and you'll probably agree with this. This
Is it R1? R1 and C1?
No, I talked about that in a tutorial already.
I know.
But that is
That's still
one.
my favorite thing that it just amazes me is R1 and C1.
There's there's a problem that I would have with keyframes. I really enjoy using the timeline to only see what I'm working on at that moment. So it's not just a big cluster. You know, so I'm not searching for keyframes and stuff. I like to highlight like 10 different things on my object window and right click on it and say show tracks. And then that will open in your timeline viewer. You can see all of your keyframes, and you can manage just what you're working on at that moment. Only problem is I couldn't figure out how to get back to like a view of everything. So if I wanted to see everything on the timeline, I mean, you can technically select everything and then you can say show tracks, but then you're not seeing keyframes on materials, on tags, stuff like that. Have you had this problem before?
No, not really.
I thought you had asked me about that before. I thought you had asked me
I
how to see all
the
the
only
keyframes.
The only thing I remember, because I want to say I Googled it, you know, I switched on automatic mode,
Yes.
you know, or something like that. And then maybe that was it.
That is
I believe.
exactly that is what the answer is. You
Yeah.
have to go back to automatic mode in your timeline. And I know it's like an obvious thing after you see it, but when the first time you come up with that and you can't find your keyframes, you're like, I don't know what to do. You start trying to go to the show menu and the hide menu and unhide and hide, and you're like, okay, how can I just see everything again? Like the default keyframes, and that's what you do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think with some digestive stuff you would need subsurface scattering?
I would say no, and mainly because it's just going to add like a ton of time to your render.
Yeah, because I'm
But-
looking at this picture and it almost looks like pink cement, you know? Like that would be the texture.
I mean, I imagine in real
interesting.
life, if there was a light behind some intestines, yeah, you probably see the light
Mhm.
coming through it, like when you put a flashlight, you know, on your hand and you could see some light coming through it. But
Yeah.
I think it's too much trouble, honestly.
Yeah. Ooh.
Got another
I'm playing
question here.
around with it.
Got a question here about our hobbies.
Ooh, hobbies, huh?
Yeah, you
What
go first.
are your other hobbies? Hobbies. Well, Brograph right now is a hobby.
Mhm.
I want it to be a full-time thing, but you know.
We'll see. It's going in a
hobbies.
good direction.
Yeah, it's good. I you know, I don't know. I like to write. I just had a kid a little bit ago, so you know, I've been spending a lot of my time with him. Mixed between Brograph, my wife, and my kids. You know, really, that's where it's at. And I honestly, I really like just watching other tutorials and watching, you know, I really enjoy appreciating TV. I know that sounds dumb. It makes me sound like I'm lazy, like I just like watching TV, which I do, but I love appreciating
Right.
TV and appreciating movies,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife hates watching a movie with me because I'll analyze the heck out of it. But that's really a hobby, I guess. I don't know. Is that a hobby?
Yeah, that's a hobby.
Hmm. I like
Um,
to eat in my free time.
hmm
Eat as much as I possibly can. I don't know.
What do I do? What do I do for hobbies? I have a podcast. It's called Urban Coffee. It's not going to be around much longer though. Unfortunately, just don't have enough time.
They're looking for
And
donors, so
yeah, I do like to play video games from time to time. Now I've got an Xbox up here in the office for when I'm rendering.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I play Grand Theft Auto 5 on it a lot. And I'm big into Grand Theft Auto 5 and Halo. And man, I'll tell you, being a 3D animator, it's really cool to just be able to appreciate something like Grand Theft Auto. If you have not seen how incredibly intricate it is, it's insane. And just to imagine when you're walking down the road and you see a little piece of garbage, just flying down the road in the breeze, and there's something written on it. Somebody put that there. All those
Mm-hmm.
miles and miles and miles of road that you go down, and there's paint. The roads are painted. There's stripes on the road. Somebody put those there. Every
Mm-hmm.
crevice and every place you go, somebody had to build, and just the sheer craziness of the magnitude of that. Just I love that. But other things that I do. What else do I do? I don't know what I do. I find myself playing video games a lot, and I'll play something like Little Big Planet, and I'll start putting together a little 3D map, and then I'll realize, I could just do this in cinema, and then I'll
That's
want to
funny.
just go mess around with cinema for fun. Um,
The The Last of Us. That's a real pretty game.
oh man, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, just the water in it is just incredible.
hmm
It's a really pretty game. I need to give you back your copy. I didn't play it even once yet.
I was thinking about that today. I couldn't remember if I even gave it to you.
Well, I was gonna play it. My wife was gonna be out of town, and I was gonna play it. So
Watch it with me.
I'm also a big Who fan, Doctor Who fan,
I don't
and
know.
who's on first?
Hmm.
Um, Also a big Star Trek fan.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What?
Movies you're looking forward to? I saw I saw the preview for the man, what's that? What's the Rocky and Bullwinkle kid? The kid and the dog. Sherman and
Oh, Peabody and Sherman. They making a movie of
Peabody
that?
and Sherman. Yeah. Yeah, there's this guy that I follow on Twitter who's working on it right now, and I saw the trailer for it today, and it's it looks good. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look it's done by DreamWorks, and it doesn't look necessarily like um, the typical DreamWorks movie. I don't know how to explain. Like, because normally I notice with DreamWorks movies, they have a tendency to, play off of pop culture and stuff like that. It didn't seem like they were doing that with the trailer, which I liked.
Hmm.
And then Ben Stiller's coming out with that new movie. What is it?
Oh
The
yeah.
man, that one.
Yeah, The Secret Life
It's
of such and such, or whatever that
yeah,
is.
Walter Mitty.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so excited about that one. It's so funny when I saw it when I saw the preview in the theater, I was like, okay, who's directing this? This has to be an amazing director. I thought it was Michel Gondry,
Mm-hmm.
just by the way it looked and like the style and stuff. But surprisingly, it's actually Ben Stiller who's directing it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
One other thing I wanted to talk about is
back to business.
is your health. Man, I ignored my health for a really long time, and mostly when I say that, I'm talking about sleep. Man, it is
Hmm.
amazing, and I'm sure it's easier when you're younger, but when you get older, especially when you're in motion graphics, I mean, it just seems to me that uh, there are a lot of young motion graphics people, and you're learning and you're spending all night working on stuff, and you might not have a family yet or anything like that. And the older you get, the less time you have. So you're going to find yourself working very late, and it's going to be tough. And one of the worst things for me was that I ignored what my body was saying to me, which was get some friggin' sleep. And I wore myself down. I really, really wore myself down to just complete exhaustion, to where I was getting all sick and everything, and one thing led to another, and it was a big snowball effect, and I got in the hospital. And it all, unfortunately, came back from, like, probably just not getting enough sleep on a daily basis. So,
And then I had to take over all of his work while he was in the
Yeah.
hospital, and it was really, I mean, really, you should take care of your health, because the people around you are just gonna have to, cover all your work, really.
and if you've got stuff that you got to get done, you still gotta know when to stop, and you gotta know when to tell yourself, look, I've worked on this motion graphics tutorial for 5 hours. I'm just gonna go to sleep, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't go out tonight, it doesn't go out tonight.
And, there's a lot of times where stepping away from it, like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I've hated what I'm doing, like, just a certain project. I've absolutely hated it, and I'm trying to push through it, trying to come up with a better concept or something. After stepping away for a day, I can come back to it. I can't remember who it was, but I read a book on Walt Disney, and I was, doing a thing on his studios, and one of his animators used to spend an entire day planning out how the animation, like what the motion was going to be. And he wouldn't do anything. He would just plan it out all day. And then the next day he would come back and he'd actually draw it. And that's cool. Sometimes you got to do that, And you know what? As an artist, you can do that.
Yeah, and it's funny.
No one knows any better, right?
It's funny what will end up being something that's actually fun and fun to do when you don't think that it's going to be fun. When you least expect it, you're like, oh, this project doesn't sound like it's going to be any good. And then you get into it, and for some reason something clicks, and then all of a sudden you have this moment of inspiration, and you're like, wow, that turned out great. And then the opposite will happen. You'll have something where you're like, oh, I totally have this whole idea in my head. And then you'll try and do it, and you realize that it doesn't look, and it technically doesn't work the way that you had it in your head. And it's really frustrating. But again, sometimes just stepping back and just waiting a day and coming back to it will actually help you to just kind of reset and do a
I
better
love
job and
projects.
come up with something else.
I love projects that scare me. That
Yeah.
like when our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, and I have to figure out how to do it.
That's always
That's
the best.
what kind of it scares me to death, but man, it gets me pumped.
Yeah, because
When it turns out really well, I'm like, yes, I finally learned something new, or I learned something new. But,
because you don't want it to be just like,
fail very easily.
oh, I'm extruding another logo today. I'm extruding another logo today. That'll get boring. You got to come up with creative ways to do this stuff. And sometimes you do have to do a lot of those. You do have to do a lot of crap projects, but it will be good repetitive tasks so that you get that under your belt. And then what I've noticed is that the more times you do these crazy repetitive things, the easier it is for you to take on a crazy big project and just be able to wrap your head around it, because you know exactly what you're going to do, because you've done these motions before.
You can put some of the small stuff out of your mind so that you're not having to worry about those, and then just focus on the really difficult big parts.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So, we got any more questions? Movies?
I don't
you're
think
looking
so.
forward to? Yeah.
Anything else?
Cool.
We'll wait about a minute for the lag here from our fan.
From our fan.
We're
Who's
not
calling you?
cheesy at all. Oh man.
Oh, that
That's
was your
popping
phone.
up everywhere. Yeah. Reminders.
Oh, right.
Reminders to take my meds because I went in the hospital and I hadn't gotten enough sleep from working too much. See? Get sleep,
Yep.
or else you're gonna
Still
have
still
reminders.
paying for it.
Still paying for it a year later.
Well, cool. I think 52 minutes is good. What do you think?
It was more like an hour and 2 minutes. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Well, according to our Skype call. Oh, never mind. That's 21 minutes. I forgot I hung up and then
Hung up.
started again.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
Well,
that's,
cool.
That's all we got. We're gonna try and do these. I don't know. What do you want to say? Like once a month or something?
Sure. If
Yeah.
at the very least once a quarter.
Yes. Please tell your friends about us and have them subscribe to us and talk to us on Facebook and just get involved with us because we love talking to everybody. You know, there's a lot of online entities that set up a Twitter account and say, "Hey, we're social," but then they don't really talk to anybody. We talk to everybody who talks to us, and
Absolutely.
right now we're still small as well, so that's real nice. You know, it's very intimate, but we plan to expand and we plan to really get ourselves known and go all the way. Think big, right?
Yep, think big. And if you guys do any of our tutorials, like we said before, if you do any of them, we want to see them.
Yes.
We would love to see what you guys, were inspired of, or use some of our ideas or something like that. We would love to see what you guys come up with. So,
Cool. Anything else?
anyway,
We're gonna wrap
no,
this up.
yep. Hit us up on all the social networks.
And if you're watching this on the not live stream, if you're watching this on another day, please try and follow us if you can and find out when the next live one is, and join in and ask us a question because we really want to get
Yep.
that live community thing going.
Yes, we do. So, all right. Well, I'm Matt Milstead.
I'm Dave Koss. This has been
And,
Brograph Live.
Thank you guys for watching.
Later, bros.
Later, bros.